The story of our world stretches back millions of years, filled with countless events that have shaped the present. These events can be divided into three categories: positive, negative, and terrible. While some historical events have been altered over time to match the beliefs and feelings of different eras, the core of history remains unchanged. In today's video, we'll explore some of the most terrible historical facts. Interestingly, schools often avoid discussing these facts. While some might not seem essential, they have the potential to cause concern for many people. The Opium Wars in China. The mid-19th century was a crucial period in modern Chinese history, marked by the Opium Wars. The First Opium War, from 1839 to 1842, involved China and Great Britain. The second, from 1856 to 1860, saw a weakened China facing both Great Britain and France, leading to China's defeat. The surrender terms were harsh. China had to give control of Hong Kong to Britain, open treaty ports for foreign trade, and grant special privileges to foreigners in these ports. On top of this, China had to deal with a rise in British opium sales within its borders. This was justified in the name of free trade, with little regard for the negative impacts on the Chinese people and government. There are different views on why Britain fought the Opium Wars. Some say it was to uphold free trade, while others argue it was about protecting Britain's international reputation during challenging times in other regions. From China's perspective, the First Opium War signaled the decline of late imperial China and began what is now known as the Century of Humiliation. Today, Chinese historians view the wars as acts of aggression that taught a harsh lesson. Falling behind invites domination. This understanding influenced the later Chinese Revolution against imperialism and feudalism. The Great Emu War of Australia. If you thought wars were just about humans, get ready for a strange conflict that happened in Australia during the 1930s, known as the Great Emu War. After World War I, Australia faced an agricultural crisis made worse by an unexpected enemy: emus. These large, flightless birds moved inland during breeding season, finding the newly cultivated lands of Western Australian farmers irresistible. The result was major crop damage. Desperate and frustrated, the farmers, many of whom were ex-soldiers, asked the Australian government for help. In response, the government sent a small military force armed with machine guns to reduce the emu population. However, the resilient and fast-moving emus proved to be tough opponents. The military's failure to control the situation, along with public outrage over the treatment of the birds, led to the operation being called off. The government then tried a different approach by introducing a bounty system to manage the emu population, which turned out to be more effective. This quirky episode in Australian history reminds us of the unexpected challenges in farming and the complexities of human-animal conflicts. Hitler and Disney. Adolf Hitler, known as one of the most terrible figures in human history, led a brutal campaign against Jews, which contributed to the outbreak of World War II. The 6 years of intense fighting caused widespread destruction, economic devastation, and the loss of millions of lives. Despite the years that have passed since Hitler's death, recent discoveries reveal an unexpected side of him: his fondness for Disney movies. While Hitler banned American films because of his anti-American sentiments, he considered Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs the greatest animated film. During Roy Disney's 1938 visit to Germany, a copy of Snow White was sold to the Nazi propaganda ministry. However, this copy reportedly went straight to Hitler's private cinema, never seen by the German public. Surprisingly, Hitler had a hobby of drawing Disney characters both as a student and later as the dictator of Nazi Germany. He watched cartoons every night after dinner. Despite these interests, it's important to remember that they did not make him a kinder person. Recently discovered drawings from 1940, featuring characters from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and an unfinished sketch of Pinocchio, confirm Hitler's genuine love for Disney. The Siege of Leningrad. The siege of Leningrad was a long and brutal military blockade by the Axis powers against the Soviet city of Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, during World War II. The siege started on September 8, 1941, when the Nazi army attempted an attack, but couldn't succeed. For 872 days, German and Finnish troops cut off supplies, leaving only a water route across Lake Ladoga as the city's link to the outside world. Residents of Leningrad faced one of the worst famines in history, which reduced the city's population by a third to less than 800,000 people in just over 2 years. The harsh winter brought severe shortages of food, wood, coal, and gas, forcing people to endure extreme cold without enough resources. As desperation grew, reports of increased meat supplies emerged, initially believed to be horse and dog meat. However, it became clear that residents had resorted to cannibalism, with over 2,000 registered cases, though the actual number was likely much higher. This blockade is one of history's longest and most destructive, marked by a staggering number of casualties and immense suffering. Mozart's lewd songs. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, a celebrated composer, left a lasting impact on the world of music despite his short life of just 35 years. His incredible talent, including a remarkable musical ear and improvisation skills, made him the youngest member of the Bologna Philharmonic Academy at the age of 14. Centuries after his death, Mozart's compositions continue to captivate audiences worldwide. Contrary to the image of a classical musician, Mozart's personality was anything but conventional. Alongside his masterful works, he wrote several songs with unconventional and even vulgar themes. In 1782, he composed a musical canon with 6 voices, but the somewhat indecent title led the publisher to modify the lyrics for wider acceptance. Another humorous composition was about the act of going to the toilet without leaving bed. Some of these pieces were crafted for friends, while others provocatively challenged societal norms. Despite his refined musical taste, Mozart's playful and occasionally scandalous compositions remain a fascinating aspect of his legacy. Pharaoh Pepi II and his dislike for insects. The Egyptian Empire was one of the largest in human history, with pharaohs wielding immense power. Some of their actions even bordered on madness. Pharaoh Pepi II began his reign at the tender age of 6, taking the throne of Egypt's 6th dynasty after his older brother Meron-Re. Remarkably, Pepi II holds the record as the longest reigning monarch, with sources indicating he ruled for an astonishing 94 years. Beyond his lengthy reign, Pepi II is remembered for some peculiar actions. Letters reveal that he requested Haru, the governor of Aswan, to capture a politely presented dancing pygmy for court entertainment during expeditions into Nubia. Additionally, Pepi II had a strong dislike for flies. To keep them away, he allegedly asked his slaves to cover themselves in honey so the flies would be drawn to them instead of him. Interestingly, not all Egyptians shared Pepi II's disdain for flies. Some revered the insect for its swiftness and persistence, qualities symbolizing tenacity. Soldiers who displayed these traits on the battlefield were honored with golden fly awards. The symbolic significance of flies extended to the creation of fly amulets, from materials like gold, silver, bone, lapis lazuli, faience, carnelian, and amethyst. Wearing a fly amulet was believed to offer protection from insect bites or to ward off flies, providing a more refined alternative to Pepi II's honey-covered slaves. The Pope's war against cats religion is a complex and fascinating part of our world, but there was a time when religious beliefs almost caused a pandemic. In 1227, Pope Gregory IX took charge of the Catholic Church and held a strange belief that cats carried a demonic essence. Distrusting these gentle creatures, he even advocated for their extermination. Using his immense influence, Gregory IX convinced people that getting rid of cats was necessary. As the plague unfolded during his reign, he became even more convinced that he was right, attributing the plague to the devil's wrath, angered by his crusade against cats. Confident in his cause, Gregory IX intensified his efforts to eliminate cats, particularly black cats, which were considered embodiments of the devil. Ironically, scientists of the time discovered that the plague was actually caused by fleas in the fur of rats and mice. Cats, being natural predators of these rodents, would have kept their population in check. However, the Pope's actions inadvertently led to an increase in fleas, escalating the danger of the plague. Martin County's incubator. In today's medical world, incubators are vital tools in hospitals, especially for the care of premature infants. These life-saving devices owe their origins to Dr. Martin County, an American physician who trained under Dr. Pierre Constant Boudin, a pioneer in modern neonatal medicine. In 1897, Martin County introduced the concept of the incubator to the world, despite facing resistance from the medical community. Doctors were hesitant due to the high mortality rate of premature babies and the substantial cost of producing an incubator, which was about $75,000 at the time. Driven by personal experience, having used an incubator to save his own daughter, Martin envisioned global acceptance of his innovative technology. To fund his work, Martin organized exhibitions at Coney Island, displaying premature babies in incubators. This captured the public's attention and generosity. Despite saving an estimated 6,500 to 7,000 children during his career, Martin faced criticism for his lack of formal education and accusations of inhumanity for using infants as exhibits. Martin's inspiration for the incubator came from observing a chicken egg incubator at an agricultural exhibition. Adapting the concept for human use, he constructed a plexiglass box with an attached oxygen tube. By regulating temperature, humidity, and oxygen levels, Martin achieved remarkable results, giving premature infants a chance at life and a promising future. Belgian atrocities in the Congo Free State. Between 1885 and 1908, the Congo Free State, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, endured a brutal period of colonial exploitation under King Leopold II of Belgium. Despite never setting foot in the Congo, Leopold ruled it as his personal domain, orchestrating a reign of terror that resulted in the deaths of millions of Congolese people. Leopold's primary goal was to extract maximum wealth, especially rubber and ivory. He imposed a ruthless forced labor system where Congolese men, women, and children were forced to gather rubber under inhumane conditions. Those who failed to meet quotas faced severe punishments, such as whipping and mutilation. Despite a propaganda campaign portraying Belgian rule as benevolent, the reality was a nightmare of exploitation, violence, and widespread human rights abuses. The mortality rate soared due to overwork, starvation, and diseases, leading to a significant decline in the population. The horror finally ended in 1908 when international pressure, fueled by campaigners like Edmund Dean Morel and Roger Casement, forced Belgium to annex the territory, ending Leopold's personal rule. However, the damage was irreversible, leaving the Congo scarred, its people victimized, and its resources depleted. The history of dentures today, dealing with dental issues, is much simpler, thanks to the availability of dental prostheses in medical clinics. But not many know about the fascinating yet somewhat unsettling history of dentures. Let's travel back to around 700 BC, when artisans in ancient northern Italy crafted the first false teeth from human or animal teeth. While these early dentures didn't last long and quickly deteriorated, they were easy to make and remained the norm until the 1700s. During this time, denture materials improved with the introduction of walrus, elephant, and hippopotamus ivory. However, changes came again in the early 1770s when French dentists, unhappy with ivory dentures, embraced porcelain, which was believed to be incorruptible. Each tooth was carefully hand-painted to resemble natural teeth. But these dentures were brittle, lacked aesthetics, and shrank when fired. While porcelain aimed to provide a more durable and pleasing material, human teeth, known as Waterloo teeth, remained in high demand. These teeth were harvested from up to 50,000 dead soldiers after the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Additionally, human teeth were extracted from executed criminals or sold by the desperate poor seeking money. In 1820, Claudius Ashe, an English silversmith and goldsmith, refined the process by mounting porcelain teeth on 18-karat gold plates with gold springs and swivels. These new dentures were superior both aesthetically and functionally, although notoriously difficult to clean. Shadows of the dead. World War II, the most devastating event in human history, left a lasting mark not only through the conflict itself, but also in its haunting aftermath. The course of the war took a grim turn when the United States Army deployed atomic bombings on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Amidst the catastrophic aftermath, local residents faced a chilling and eerie phenomenon: the emergence of black shadows etched onto surfaces by the intense light of the nuclear explosion. These haunting silhouettes captured the outlines of people, objects, and scenes obliterated in the blast. Children with their bicycles, couples with their cars, a grim reminder known as the shadows of the dead. These spectral remnants stand as poignant testaments to the destructive power unleashed upon Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Scientifically, these shadows are believed to result from the intense light radiation during the nuclear explosion, similar to the formation of a regular shadow where an object obstructs radiation from reaching the surface behind it. In the wake of the atomic explosions, the radiation was so intense that it altered the color and properties of many surfaces. Unprotected individuals within the radius of the light radiation suffered severe burns, leaving behind unburned shadows. While some of these individuals initially survived, they succumbed to their injuries and burns over time. Nearly 80 years have passed since the tragic event, yet the haunting shadows endure, serving as a perpetual reminder of the harrowing consequences wrought by the war. Thomas Edison's talking doll. Thomas Edison, the renowned American inventor and entrepreneur, earned widespread acclaim for his numerous contributions to technology. With a staggering 1,093 patents in the United States and over 3,000 internationally, Edison left an indelible mark on innovation. Among his many achievements, he pioneered the phonograph, a groundbreaking device for recording and playing back sound. Edison's impact extended to improvements in the telephone and telegraph, the development of a commercially successful incandescent lamp, and the introduction of the word hello at the beginning of conversations. However, even a luminary like Edison faced commercial setbacks, and one of the most noteworthy was the venture into eerie phonographic dolls. In 1887, Edison conceived an original doll, a 22-inch girl featuring a miniature movable phonograph playing children's songs. Fast forward to 1890, and Edison's company had refined the doll, launching it into mass production. The toy was revolutionary, boasting compact dimensions and a phonograph that allowed children to listen to poems. Activating the mechanism was simple. A child turned a handle on the doll's back, and the enchanting tunes would play. Despite the initial promise of this innovative creation, reality painted a different picture. The development process spanned several years, but the sales window was disappointingly brief, lasting only 6 weeks. Edison's phonographic doll faced commercial failure due to the cumbersome nature of turning a handle to activate the singing. Compounding the issue, the ring-shaped wax records quickly wore out, cracked and deformed. The doll's voice, intended to delight, had the opposite effect, striking fear into children and appearing more suited to the eerie atmosphere of modern horror movies. The story of the American flag. The United States flag, widely recognized around the world, has a remarkable history behind its creation. The iconic Star-Spangled Banner was crafted by American designer Robert Heft, born in 1942 in Saginaw, Michigan, and raised in Lancaster, Ohio, by his grandparents after his parents' divorce. During his time in elementary school, Robert's American history teacher, Stanley Pratt, assigned a project challenging the class to express their love and respect for history. 17-year-old Robert chose to redesign the American flag, envisioning a flag with 50 stars in anticipation of Alaska and Hawaii joining the Union. Despite his creative foresight, Robert received a disappointing D grade for his project. Undeterred, he proposed a deal with his teacher. If his flag design were adopted by the United States Congress, he should receive a higher grade. At that time, the United States comprised 48 states, and the teacher considered Robert's inclusion of 50 stars a mistake, contributing to the low grade. Robert's perseverance led him to present his flag design to President Dwight Eisenhower. Surprisingly, the schoolboy's project gained approval, standing out among more than 1,500 designs. On July 4, 1960, the United States Independence Day, the flag was officially adopted as the national emblem, now proudly bearing 50 stars. Returning to Lancaster High School, Robert saw his teacher fulfill the promise and raise the grade for the once dismissed project, marking a pivotal moment in the evolution of the American flag. The Tuskegee syphilis study. Few experiments in the history of medicine are as infamous as the Tuskegee syphilis study, launched in 1932 by the United States Public Health Service. This study aimed to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis in African American men in Tuskegee, Alabama. Over 600 impoverished sharecroppers were enrolled, with about 2/3 of them having syphilis. Shockingly, they were kept unaware of their diagnosis and misled into thinking they were receiving treatment for bad blood, a local term for various ailments. In reality, no meaningful treatment was ever administered, even after the discovery of penicillin in the 1940s, which proved to be an effective remedy for syphilis. The subjects were deliberately denied the antibiotic, ensuring the unbridled progression of the disease. As a result, many men suffered fatal outcomes, developed severe health issues, and transmitted the disease to their spouses and children. The Tuskegee syphilis study persisted until 1972, when media exposure finally brought it to an end, concluding 4 decades of medical deception. This dark chapter left an indelible mark on medical research, prompting significant changes in ethical guidelines and the establishment of review boards to safeguard human subjects. The story of Minnie Dean. Nannies and caregivers hold a vital role in families, often taking care of children they've never met before. However, the unsettling tale of Min Dean might give pause to those who trust such caregivers. Willoma Dean, known as Minnie, holds a dark distinction as the only woman executed in New Zealand's history. In the mid-19th century, Minnie and her husband faced financial struggles, leading them to move to Winton. While her husband tended to pigs, Minnie took on the role of a nanny, offering her services to care for unwanted children in exchange for payment. During this time, childbirth out of wedlock was considered shameful, leading to the establishment of baby farms, where women could discreetly seek assistance. At various times, Minnie cared for 3 to 9 children. Given the high child mortality rates of the era, the deaths of several children under Minnie's care initially raised no suspicions. However, public opinion began to shift, with many accusing Minnie of wrongdoing in connection to the deceased children. In 1889, a 6-month-old baby under Minnie's care passed away, followed by another child's death. Authorities, compelled to investigate, probed into the conditions under which the children were kept. While proving Minnie's involvement was challenging for the police, a temporary detention and search of Minnie's house in 1895 revealed a horrifying truth: the buried bodies of 3 children in the garden. Evidence pointed to one child being poisoned with medication, while another had been strangled. Shockingly, many parents had entrusted their children to Minnie, paying a considerable sum for their care. Despite her lawyer's attempts to portray her innocence by arguing that she hid the bodies out of fear and distrust, the court found Minnie guilty. On August 12, 1895, she was executed by hanging. Today, Minnie Dean remains a haunting figure in New Zealand folklore, her name forever etched in history as one of its most tragic and shameful chapters. Thanks for watching the video, and if you found it informative, please like and subscribe to Time Capsule for similar content. We look forward to sharing more knowledge with you in the future. Until then, take care.